Okay, so we're going clubbing tonight. I have literally never been clubbing in Paris, you guys. So, the thing is that I moved to Paris when I was 26 and I thought like, oh my God, I'm in my going out era, blah, 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 blah. And then COVID happened. So I was not in my going out era. I was in my stay home era. And now, to celebrate 6 years in Paris, I'm going to a very famous club. And look what I have. I have one packet of Gatorade left. And we're gonna make it and prepare for it so that when I get home, I hope I remember to drink it.
Stupid. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Good morning, vlog. So we're getting ready and I'm going to tell you about my first real Parisian clubbing experience that I had last night. Okay, I've lived in Paris for 6 years and I have never been to like a proper Parisian nightclub. I'm not like a huge clubbing person to begin with, just because typically when you go to a club, like you have to go super late for it to be good. And I just don't like staying out late frequently because I don't like messing up my sleep schedule. And the other reason that like I really haven't gone is when I moved here 6 years ago, I was in my mid-20s, mid to like later part of my 20s. And I thought like, oh, this is my time. And I'm like, I'm in this big city, I'm gonna go clubbing, and then COVID hit. So, and we were in lockdown for 2 months. And then even when we weren't in lockdown, like I wasn't into the idea of like going out into nightclubs. So the first, I would say 18 months especially of me living in Paris were like really marked by COVID. And we had multiple lockdowns. The first one was really intense. And then after that, like I just didn't want to be in like crowded spaces, obviously, because I am a risk averse person and I didn't want to get sick. So I decided I always do a celebration for my Paris anniversary. That's what I call it, because I think every year that I am here is worth celebrating, especially because I know like what all has gone into, me living here and the sacrifices that it takes. And so I think it's worth celebrating. But yeah, the reason that I look so tired and like blah is because I went clubbing last night. And my experience in nightclubs prior to this, I've lived in two big cities, 2.5, I'll say, because I lived in Paris, I've lived in Washington, D.C., and I've spent a lot of time in Philadelphia for family reasons. And I like just don't have a lot of clubbing experience. My clubbing experience is like going in my hometown to like the one and only nightclub that we have there. So I wanted to have this, and the thing is that every year my work like hosts our Christmas party in a club, and like these are iconic Parisian nightclubs, and I've never gone, typically because it's like right before I go home for Christmas and I don't want to get sick by going to a nightclub right before I'm supposed to fly home for Christmas. And this past year it was at this club called Le Pachamama, which is like supposedly super iconic, and I couldn't go because I wasn't in Paris. I would have gone to that one. Anyway, for the first 2 years, my work Christmas party was at this nightclub called La Machine du Moulin Rouge. The Moulin Rouge, if you know anything about Paris, is obviously a famous cabaret. And at the Moulin Rouge, they have a nightclub. It's called La Machine. And there's typically like a big line, and they do this thing called la chronologique. So typically what it is it starts at 11:59, okay? And they start from one era. Typically they start I think in like the 1950s or 60s, and they play music from that era for like an hour, and then they move on to the next decade, okay? And I decided this is what I wanted to do for my 6-year Paris anniversary. However, the difference with this one is that it was called La Chronologique Reverse or Revers. And it started with the 2010s and then went to the 2000s, and so on and so forth. So I organized like pre-drinks at a place called South Pigalle, which I've like walked by a million times, and it's like one of those places that I'm always like, oh, this looks fun, I want to go in, and then I never go in. I'm just waiting for my sunscreen to like dry a bit. And so I had like a bunch of friends come. It was super fun. I did have some, people cancel last minute for various reasons, but that's to be expected and it happens. And yeah, it was just fun to like catch up with friends. And then 3 of us went to La Machine, which is like right up the street. The tickets are pricey. They were like 22 euros, and it sold out. So I only went with 2 of the friends that had come to the bar ahead of time. And so we went in and we did coat check. And at first I was nervous because like there was a big line, but that was just because they had, you have to go through security. And it wasn't like full because we got there on the earlier end, because we are like 3 women in our early 30s. We don't, necessarily want to be out all night. And it was really fun. It started to get really full. People were singing. I will play some of the videos for you. I had a really good time, and I think, it was just like a big cavern space, and there was like some, balconies on the side that filled up with people. But the thing that I did notice was like everyone that was there was like early 20s, and then me and my friends who were like early 30s. So I was like, okay, this is maybe not like the spot for like 3, sexy ladies in their early 30s. But that didn't stop us because the music was fun. The DJs were like up on a platform. And the drinks weren't like terribly expensive. Although maybe when I look at my banking app, I will think differently. Who knows? But basically, we had a really fun time. We were just dancing around with all the other people. And then, and here's the drama, somebody like, just danced into me and my friends, and it made, us kind of like tumble into this group of guys that were dancing next to us. And this one guy who had annoyingly good hair got super aggressive with us, and he shoved my friend, who is like a 5'2" woman. I'm also 5'2". He shoved my friend. I look really crazy, and I just hang on a second. I need to go get my brush, and then I will finish the story. Okay, we're back. He shoved my friend, and that was just like he literally physically shoved her, and that made me really mad. So I'm a feisty person, and I had had a few drinks, so I was like, well, you're not gonna shove me and my friend. So I shoved him back, and then I don't think he could believe that I shoved him, even though he literally shoved my friend. So he then shoved me. He like put his hand, I had a low like V-neck on, he put his hand like on my chest and like shoved me back. And then like I think some of the other guys that weren't with either of our groups like kind of stepped in to like help de-escalate it. And I'm not into fighting, but I was like, you're not gonna freaking shove my friend. Like, you are like a 6 foot tall dude. You shouldn't be shoving anyone, let alone like 2 petite women who accidentally bumped into you in a nightclub. So, after that, like, I feel like we stayed like maybe like 30 more minutes, and then we left and we went to Five Guys across the street. I like never go to Five Guys, but since we had been drinking, we just like wanted some food, and then it was, the end. And overall, the drama will just add to the lore. I don't know that I will like necessarily go back to that club just because like I feel like there are probably better clubs. And clubbing is like not something that I, like I said, do often. However, um, like dancing felt really good, and just like shouting music at the top of my lungs felt really good because it's been a really heavy week. Like last weekend, there was another protester killed by ICE. Actually, not killed, murdered by ICE. And then yesterday, like, we found out that independent journalist Don Lemon and another Georgia Fort and like two other people who are journalists got arrested. And that just felt so heavy. I, cried. And dancing felt really good. It just, and obviously the alcohol helped. Like it just like let me take my mind off of all of the stuff that's happening in the US right now. Um, I've been trying to take action where I can. I attended a ICE Out protest. Um, I've been calling my representatives on like all different types of issues, primarily ICE, but I also called them about Don Lemon, who has been released as of this recording, so that's good, but he should have never been arrested in the first place. And so it's just been really hard this week. I feel like I've been battling my emotions, trying to like keep it together, try and, not let it all consume me, because if it does consume me, I'll go down like a sinking ship. And so yeah, dancing felt really good. So I'm glad I did it. But now I have the rest of the weekend to rest, relax. I got home like before 4 a.m. and I was like probably in bed at like 4 a.m. So definitely late, but not like crazy late. But yeah. Now I'm just gonna have a bite to eat and go out and see my friends, which ironically we're going to get coffee after I told you that I don't like getting coffee in Paris because it's not good. If anyone has a good iced latte spot in Paris, like please let me know. All right, I gotta pay attention to what I'm doing because as it turns out, I'm not very successful at doing makeup while chatting to you. Hello vlog, back in the bathroom. So I fell asleep reading my book last night, and then I woke up and I was like, oh my god, I need to finish my book, which was The 7-Year Slip, and I did finish it. And now it's like, I don't know, 10:30 a.m. and it's the first Sunday of the month. Now, if you didn't know this, the first Sunday in the month in Paris, many of the public museums are free. And so I am going to go to the Rodin Museum because they have an exhibit right now about Dior and a ceramic artist that inspired Dior. So I'm meeting my friend there and we're gonna get ready to go, and then I need to edit this vlog. Yeah, so I'm feeling pretty good about this weekend. I went clubbing, I saw friends, I read an entire book, now I'm going to a museum, and then my husband is like, you don't know how to rest. Which is true. I don't know how to rest. Yeah. So, let's get ready.
a wrap on my first vlog. If you made it this far, thank you so much. I have been wanting to do this for so long, and I've done like little mini vlogs on Instagram or whatever, but I wanted to do more long form vlogs because I think we don't see a lot of kind of like regular life. We only see people that have lots of money, and that's fun to watch too, but I just wanted to show what like a real life, normal life in Paris looks like of somebody that moved here on their own. And I think that I have a lot of things that I can share because I know that people like, this is going to sound cocky and I don't mean it to be, but I wish I had somebody like myself when I was younger and I didn't know how to move here who could help kind of guide me and like tell me that everything was going to be okay and tell me that if I really wanted to do it, I would. So that's what I'm here for. I want to show you life in Paris, but also kind of share all the things that I've learned along the way. Because yeah, I think it's really, I hope it's helpful and I hope you'll come back and watch again. I hope you have a great week.